Yes!
That is your governor. So I have the first question I have to ask you is, why is like every corporate CEO in like not just the country but the world calling you and saying, hey, you got any space for rent in Texas?
So I'll answer the question. However, I want to amend your theme here. So the theme for this event is Fire Nancy Pelosi and Save America. But the moment after we fire Nancy Pelosi, we need to impeach Secretary Mayorkas and clean house with regard to the border. But all these businesses are coming here. You happen to be in the #1 state for business in the United States. Texas, the CEOs who make business decisions have ranked Texas the #1 state for business for 18 years in a row. So Texas has received the Governor's Cup that goes to the state that has been #1 in America for economic development every year that I've been governor, and that has led to a new Texas standard. It was just in May of this year that Texas became home to more Fortune 500 company headquarters than any other state in the United States of America. But I want to make a point to everybody in this room today, and that is what I've been talking about you may be thinking are big businesses. Just as important, maybe even more important, are our small businesses. 90% of all businesses in Texas are small businesses, so I'm happy to tell you that Texas ranks #1 in America as the best state to start a small business. But all this adds up to something meaningful, and that is the most important thing we can do is to provide jobs for the people of this state. And as we gather in Dallas today, more Texans have a job than ever before in our history, and since I was last reelected as governor, no state has added more jobs than the great state of Texas. But let me give you a real quick story because you asked me why are the CEOs calling me. One of the CEOs who called me was Elon Musk. And this was in the early stages of COVID, and he told me he had to build this gigafactory, and there was no way he was going to be able to build this gigafactory in California with all the rules and regulations. If you know or have seen anything about Elon, you know he wants to move at a very fast pace. And he wanted to, from scratch, build a gigafactory from grading the ground to putting up the factory walls to building out the factory floor to having cars roll off that factory. He was able to do all of that in a factory that is more than a mile long in only 18 months. And what he did, he tweeted, he said he was able to build an entire gigafactory in 18 months in Texas. He said if he were still in California, he would not even have the permits yet. And so people are coming here because Texas moves at the speed of business.
I got to say, one of my favorite Elon Musk tweets was Tesla and plus Twitter equals Twizzler. I thought that was so clever. But here's talking about California. So there's a governor there, you know, this governor, Gavin Newsom. Apparently, he's been deciding to spend a lot of money in your state and in Florida pushing these ads about freedom. So what's your response to the governor?
He's just pissed off that all his businesses are moving to Texas.
Hey, Governor, the freedom to move.
That's right. That's right. People do need freedom to move. Hey, let me tell you all a secret. First of all, how many of you are from Texas? Most of you. So you're going to clearly understand what I'm about to talk about because I know that this is an urgent issue in your heart. One thing they all feel is it's great to be a good state for business, but I hear this all the time, Governor, you better not let those liberal Californians move into the state of Texas. So here's an important fact for you to know. Number one, Texas is the #1 state in America that people are moving to. But here's the part that you do not know. Even though we have a lot of people moving here and a lot of people moving here from California, there are actually a lot of people moving from Texas to other states. What do you think is the #1 state that Texans are moving to? Nope. The #1 state Texans are moving to is California. So why would someone from Texas move to California? Is because they like the Gavin Newsom type of liberalism. So what we have an exchange program going on. We're getting the California conservatives, we're sending them our liberals.
So one of our occupational hazards is, even though I grew up in Houston and was an Oilers fan, by the way, love you blue, but
Love you blue.
Earl Campbell and the rest, but we live outside our nation's capital. You know, the mayor of Washington has really picked a beef with you over the fact that there's an invasion going on in Washington, D.C., because you sent 5,000 illegals. I set it up pretty good for you there, Governor.
So, yeah, this is what we call T-ball right here. So I want you to know what really began all this, and that is I was down on the border talking with local mayors, local county judges in places like Uvalde and Del Rio and other places that were just completely overrun. And they were talking about getting the illegal immigrants that Border Patrol had dropped off into their communities that they were incapable of dealing with, and them actually busing them to San Antonio. I said, don't do that. I have a better idea. We're going to bus them all the way to Washington, D.C. But now you know what's happened, and that is actually now we've bused more than 6,500 illegal immigrants to Washington, D.C., and they cannot handle that one single challenge. We deal with that number every single day. I got one thing to tell you and to tell them. There are more buses on the way as we gather at this conference today.
You know, that's...
So I'll add this in. If you want to pitch in and help out, you can buy your own border bus. If we call it, go to borderbus.texas.gov. You can help fund sending all these folks to Washington, D.C., and make them deal with the problem.
You know, Governor, we could do this two ways. There's a lot of us who live outside the swamp, I think, that would probably like to come to Texas, filling them up with the folks coming here illegally over the border, and then we'll fill that bus back with freedom lovers that want to go to Texas.
There you go.
Is that a deal?
There you go. Free ride. Free ride.
But, you know, as we address this border crisis, it's a humanitarian crisis, and as well as it is a national security crisis. So when, you know, we're looking at the fact that you have the drug cartels and you have the human traffickers preying on these vulnerable families, getting through this border illegally with sending drugs and fentanyl into almost every single American community. I mean, how can you do this, Governor, without the support of the federal government, as they've abandoned you? Because we know under President Trump, he understood the battle at the border. He understood what he had to do to stop illegal immigrants from coming in and from allowing drug cartels to profit off the border. And now it's in chaos, other than the work that you and some of the other governors are doing.
So you say, how can we do this? And the fact of the matter is, Donald Trump was the model for how to do it. Donald Trump did 4 things that secure the border. He built the wall, he implemented the Remain in Mexico policy, he implemented the Title 42 policy, and he ended catch and release. And when he did that, just 2 years ago, we had the lowest border crossings in decades. And now we have the highest border crossings ever. So among other things, what we've done, we've deployed the National Guard. As we gather here today, the National Guard is patrolling the border and securing the border, and they are returning back across the border illegal immigrants who are trying to get into the state of Texas. Give it up for the National Guard of the great state of Texas.
That's right.
And if they make it past the National Guard, we have the Texas Department of Public Safety arresting migrants and either putting them in jail or returning them to the border. And then on top of that, we've done something that no state has ever done from the time of George Washington to the time of Joe Biden. Texas is the only state to build our own border wall to secure our state and to secure our sovereignty.
I can just see that wall. Governor Abbott in Texas, Governor Kerry Lake in Arizona. I can see this thing happening with you guys getting this done. But I want to go back to this.
We're still waiting for Kerry Lake to be called.
I know, it's the truth.
Crazy.
I want to go back to this fella, interesting fellow, Beto O'Rourke. If you'll excuse me.
He got it wrong. He'll learn. It's Robert Francis.
That's right. I actually call him Beta, but everyone can call him what they want. He was speaking the other day about parents in schools, and we had this experience in Virginia. We ran this Democrat. The Democrats ran this guy for governor in Virginia, Terry McAuliffe. And Terry McAuliffe, you guys know Terry McAuliffe? He's retired now, by the way. And he said that parents don't have a right to know what books are being passed out in libraries and what teachers are teaching in our classroom. Now, as I said, Terry McAuliffe is retired. I think Beto O'Rourke might have hired him, Robert Francis, to be his campaign manager because Beto O'Rourke is out there saying, what are parents doing intervening in the education of their children? They have no right to do that.
It's outrageous. So you mentioned one of the elements, and that is transparency. Parents have every right to know exactly all of the materials that their children are being taught. We learned that. We learned that during the time of COVID when kids were taking lessons home and parents got to see it for the first time, and we, for the first time, got to see that, in fact, our students, and even in Texas, were being taught critical race theory. And so we passed not one, but 2 laws banning critical race theory in every subject, in every grade, in every public school in the entire state of Texas. But more to your point, before coming out here, I had the chance to meet 2 of their beautiful children.
They're over there.
Well, some of them. There's additional children over
there.
there.
Is that 3? One I didn't meet. So here's a point with them and with all of you. You love your children more than any government employee ever can. You have the right to be the decision maker for the health care and educational decisions for your child. You should have the right to choose the school that is best for your child as opposed to government mandating what school your child should attend.
That's right.
Governor, you're really starting to see a shift with the Hispanic community. We know there's a growing Hispanic community here in Texas, and we saw the recent win of Congresswoman Flores, which was a huge success.
She's going to be here.
Yes, and we've seen other candidates that the New York Times now calls the far-right Latina. Okay, this is the America First Republican conservative leaders out there who simply love America. They love their faith, and they love their community. You're also seeing the poll numbers for Joe Biden for Hispanics at simply 19%. I've even seen even lower in terms of the approval ratings for him. What's happening? Why that shift with the Hispanic, and I would say other minority communities, including the African-American community, to say, I'm going to reject these leftist policies?
Sure. So 2 factors combining together. One is that definitely applies to the Hispanic community, but also the black community, as well as all communities in the state of Texas and America. But for the Hispanic community, the core heart is faith in God, putting family first, and respecting the freedom that exists in no place better than the United States of America. That's what Maya Flores campaigned upon and won upon. That's what Hispanics believe in, and that's one reason why we are winning Hispanics. The other reason is because Joe Biden has really gone far leftist, far more left than what he appeared to be earlier in his career, and he fully bought into the Ocasio-Cortez mentality that they want open border policies. And I tell you who does not want open border policies. The people who are the most frustrated, the most angry, the most bitter about what is going on the border are the county after county after county on the border, which is about 90% Hispanic occupied. They are angry that the Biden administration is allowing their communities to be overrun. Combine those two forces together, and that's exactly why Myra Flores won that special election for a seat in Congress in South Texas, and why other Latinas are going to be winning this November, keeping Texas red.
So I just want to jump in for just two quick final thoughts here. One is, give us your take on energy independence. We know that, that under President Biden and the Democrats, the climate change, which is their religion, and they're going to do everything they can. So all of us have to buy electric vehicles, although we can't even afford them. So what's your sense in terms of what needs to be done to ensure energy independence reigns again in America?
Well, it's very easy, and we can put it in this context. There was absolutely no reason why Joe Biden should have flown halfway across the globe to meet with the Prince of Saudi Arabia, do a fist bump, and then beg for oil and get absolutely nothing out of it.
Well, we did get one thing. He got COVID, so you know.
So to answer your question, all Joe Biden had to do, he could have taken a shorter flight to Midland, Texas.
That's right.
I would have even met him on the tarmac and done the fist bump deal. And we could have driven 5 miles away from the airport. I said, right here, we can start drilling a well right here. I just need a pipe permit, a refining permit, and we can cut the cost of gasoline in half overnight.
And, sir,
I think that's by the way, Mr. President, that's a live invitation, I believe.
Yeah.
You get this done.
So we have a slogan in Texas, and that is, it's time to prioritize the Permian Basin as opposed to princes in Saudi Arabia.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
So, sir, as we wrap here, your final thoughts, your message to the people of Texas and across America.
Texas believes in freedom. Texas believes in the power of the individual. We want to have safe communities, a secure border. We want to cut your property taxes here in the Lone Star State because we know that is your money. And we're going to be fighting for you every step of the way. Keep Texas red, fire Nancy Pelosi, impeach Mayorkas, and put America on the right track.